This is the tale of a woman whose heart went into darkness when a man would despoil everything she held dear. And then, this is also the tale of the dancer who would save her and put her heart back into the sun. This is the story of Anji, Mito, and Baiken, but it's also the story of how Amaterasu fled into a cave and was saved by the dance of Ame no Uzume. In a Shinto tale, Susanoo, the storm god and brother of the sun goddess Amaterasu, well, he defiled her holy place. So Amaterasu had a hissy fit and went into a cave. And when the sun goddess goes into a cave, you know there will be no sun. The goddess Ame no Uzume decided that everyone should dance and the noise would be enough to raise Amaterasu from her cave. And they danced, and with all the ruckus, she went closer to the edge of the cave where she saw herself in the mirror, which was enough for her to be pulled out of the cave and sun to come back to the world. I believe that in the story of Guilty Gear, the role of Ame no Uzume is taken up by Anji Mito, and the role of Amaterasu is taken up by Baiken. Back to the story. After literally bringing the sun back, Ame no Uzume was known to create Kagura. No, not that Kagura. You know how when Anji fights, it looks like he's dancing? It is because he is. Anji's fighting style is based off of one of the two main types of Kagura, Mai, which is a dance that involves long, flowing circular movements, which you can see in his fighting style. But Kagura isn't just a dance. Kagura is a divinatory dance, usually performed by Miko, or shrine maidens to appease the gods. Ame no Uzume is also allegedly a creator of humor. Now, if I tell you Anji and Baiken's story, you'll see the connections. Well, I'll make them. In the Guilty Gear canon, in a moment known as the Black Sunrise, basically all of Japan was destroyed. And there were only a few amount of survivors, those being people like Baiken, Anji, and well, if you know, Mei. Anji and Baiken had two radically different ways of approaching this occurrence. Baiken seeing her family killed in front of her by Gears, well, she swore revenge to that man, the person who created Gears and created Justice, which destroyed Japan. Anji, on the other hand, set out with only sheer curiosity to learn about the gear maker, that man, finding himself even working for that man at certain points. Anji and Baiken, of course, come into conflict with each other, where Anji would, of course, try to convince Baiken of her wrong ways, while Baiken would say that he's crazy. But really, what we're interested in is what happens during the second story of Strive, Departure. In this story, we are first introduced to Delilah, the sister of the now-deceased Bedman, or Romeo, who...
Well, I think that marks the conclusion of our little tete-a-tete. I'm a little afraid that if we kept going, I might well break you. So exit stage right then, if you please. You're hardly a match for, well, my glasses, let's say. Perhaps this is a blessing?
Bedman, win!
I'm sorry, I can't control myself. Somehow she knows that Bedman was killed by Happy Chaos, and wants revenge on him. Baiken, along with other rejects from the main story, except Anji did have a part in the main story. Either way, they're all here to help Delilah. Anji's role in the story is very small. The majority of Baiken's development and development onto Delilah comes from herself. However, it all comes from this point.
Me? I'm busier than I look. Mirrors don't make themselves, you know?
Mirrors now, too?
Umbrellas aren't paying the rent these days.
You better be right about that, man.
I'm not ready for you to cut me down.
Now look how that word is used again later on in the story.
So you're the one. You're in the mirror Anji was talking about.
I will admit, in some ways this is an addendum to my Mirror of the World video. The mirror in the Mirror of the World is not just the mirror in relation to Myoe's prayer, it's also literally the mirror in the Amaterasu story. The mirror Baiken needed to get out of the cave was Delilah, someone else who had the exact same type of revenge, reminding her of her younger self. Do we know too much about what happens really with Anji after this? Well, I guess he chose Baiken over Asuka. Outside of that, some small little notes. Anji's fighting style in XX is described as poetry in motion, which we will get back to. One last thing. Anji Mito is the closest thing to the ideal man type of Kazuhiko Shinomoto's mangas, according to Daisuke Ishihara himself. Well, Anji, I hope you're happy you found your peace. This is David Lee with the Flash Movie Game Philosophy, and we are back to talk about Rock Parade, and I have been sleeping on this theme for so long. And if you guys remember my Baiken theory, my Baiken video, also theory, you know that I love Japanese philosophy, Japanese culture, and all of that, and that took a lot, and I feel really proud of that video. And I'm going to feel very proud of this video too, because I did a lot of research to truly understand what's going on with this theme, because it is as rich as Mirror of the World, in my opinion. In some ways, it's got even some more layers to it, than even though Mirror of the World offers more things up front, there's got a lot going on, even if it's in just a few lyrics each. So, without further ado, if you don't know me, I'm Dave Leewitz. I'm about to be a possible PhD, and I love talking about the philosophy behind video games and philosophy in general. And I like to sing. So if I want to sing, I'll sing. Woo!
Countless footsteps and two small ones that I haven't forgotten. Sweets and loud music, and I don't lie with no child sleeps.
So, as we talked about in my intro, this is a reference to multiple things. The first, more important thing is A Night of Light Where No Child Sleeps. This is talking about the afterword of when Amaterasu gets out of the cave. Everyone is happy because everyone was sleeping, in a sense. Where the adults were sleeping, in a sense, but now everyone's dancing, everyone's having a party. But this also relates to Otodamaho, and here is where I will give a thing about Otodamaho. Nothing is more magical than the spirit of sound. All things in this universe are caused by the spirit of sound. All lives flow with the spirit of sound. You do not have to listen to music. Listen to a certain unchangeable sound. The sound of a waterfall, the murmur of a brook, the sound of rain, the sound of waves, anything you like. These are two quotes from Yoshisane Tomikiyo, who is speaking about the notion of Otodamaho. But before we get any further on what Otodamaho is, you know how characters like Anji, Baiken, and Ship use Ki? That's actually pretty important to Otodamaho, or concepts around Otodamaho. To explain Ki, Keiji Natsunobu writes, all creatures live in the sea of Ki, and in it human life is part of the whole universe, governed by the flow of Ki. The Japanese experience of Ki, explained by Ichikawa, is Shinshin Inshin, meaning that the mind and body are integrated in the whole existence of a human being. Hence, it represents a state of total mind-body awareness, and constitutes an essential part of the Japanese self. Ki, or Qi in Chinese, is very important in Chinese medicine, where the whole purpose is to balance the flow of Qi in the body. However, the flow of Qi in the body fundamentally also relates to the flow of Qi around you. So what if I were to tell you that you could balance your Qi with music? For the Japanese, art doesn't have a purely aesthetic purpose. It has a spiritual one as well. And Otodamaho is the notion that music and sound as a whole can lead to one's self-cultivation. Otodamaho suggests that spiritual practitioners become engaged in a meditative process through the appreciation and embodiment of natural sounds, situating themselves in nature to become a part of the universe. Alright, we're back. So basically, with that said, Otodamaho is this very powerful thing that allows you to be in one with nature. Music is a blessing, in a sense. La music is beautiful. And I feel like this might also relate to Daisuke's own philosophy. That there is, in a sense, music is something more visceral and spiritual on a visceral level. Because music literally carries spiritual energy. We'll continue. Like, it's sort of also the notion of reality. If you think about Persona 4, you think about the notion how truth is very empty. This is this sort of the idea that him trying to sort of dance because he had to sort of become a trickster with the notion of the trickster, turn this reality, turn Baiken from being having a very vengeful capacity towards that man to giving up, and I think that's very important. So yeah, exactly. All the sound and light seems to be blessing us. He exactly is doing this. He is making it so everything is that sound is fundamentally a blessing. Music is something that is meant to cleanse the body. Music is something that is not just for aesthetic purposes. It is spiritual. And I feel like even though Daisuke just says that he comes up with stuff, it feels like there's a traditional Japanese sensibility that music can be. And in this case, rock music specifically, sort of demonstrating Anji wanting to be more of the times and accept that man in a sense as a symbol of modernity, while Baiken sort of, even though she's a spiritually depraved woman, she still holds on to the past, right? That the lyric in Mirror of the World, where it's like the time exile, she can never fully live in the present. Here we have that he wants to accept rock, but I think this is also rock, the notions of a modern mode of music, which is very much taken up in Japan. The Japanese do rock so well, as we see with Guilty Gear. But also, and that's where they took a lot of video game music from. Even Nobuo Uematsu with One Winged Angel took it from rock music, not classical music. But I think this also Daisuke's own philosophy. I think, in a way, Daisuke feels that music is a blessing. So, the trickster was born. This is a reference to, again, Ame no Uzume is, in a way, she's a goddess of dance performance, but she also is a goddess of humor. So in a way, Anji over time had to turn into a trickster, and he became a trickster to sort of lighten up Baiken and other people. And so he became the trickster. He became the person who embellishes, even though his form of dance is very, very practiced and imposed, very, in control. He's able to feel sort of that light, playful energy, because Anji is still very playful. He still is playful. And the notion that he allowed Baiken to sort of, through also being in touch, be a little more in touch with inner child by having an experience with a child, with Delilah, who we'll talk about, is in a way, going back to the song with Baiken's song with the notion of the mirror. The mirror. Delilah is the mirror. So in a sense, in this myth, Delilah was the mirror that brought Baiken, Amaterasu, out of her cave and to finally be a normal person and give up revenge and bring light back to everyone and bring light to Anji. So this is all metaphor for light in Anji's life, even though Anji sees the world with light, but both light in Anji's life, but light to Baiken and lights for both of them, because both of them are in a sense carrying the spirit of Japan.
Now it's just a few footsteps on the two small ones that live. Darkness and silence that don't really matter. Sleep.
All the adults are sleeping because, well, all the adults are sleeping. One, because the adults are finally, they can't do anything because they've lost the sun, they've lost the inner child in sort of the Nietzschean sense. Because Nietzsche basically refers to the sun as the notion of life, the notion of the notion of living and accepting life as purpose. Baiken not accepting life as purpose, so Baiken, the adult, is sleeping, is living sort of like in the new song for Persona 3 Reload, stop living dead to your heart's being still, while your heart's being still. Like, Baiken was basically living dead. So Dark Dawn, but adults sleep, but where the light is where no child sleeps. Even during the night where they play, that's where Anji's living. But Anji needs to bring Baiken into the light, and he coincidentally, it happens through Baiken's just talking to Delilah. And I'm aware Baiken was very much kind of already on the way, because she's trying to convince Delilah to stop. But it clearly shows that, I think it's still in that final moment when Baiken tells Delilah, let's give it up together. That is her finally truly giving it up and becoming normal, in a sense. We're not normal is the wrong word, but becoming healthy-minded. But yes, obviously this is the darkness, again, the darkness where Amaterasu, the light, Baiken, the light, has gone. Exactly, the night that was lonely enough to last a lifetime, the night without Baiken. And Anji may be bi, so all this might be also the night without Asuka, but we'll leave that there. Woo! Here we go! Oh! Oh! Yoo! The single sound. This is the single notion of Otodamaho. This is both, yes, the playing of Ame no Uzume and everyone else to get Amaterasu out of the cave, but you can see this is the notion of sound itself. I looked up what these lyrics are, these instruments are. You've heard the yoo. It might be from the Shakuhachi, but not certain it's a Shakuhachi, the Japanese flute. The Shakuhachi definitely plays in Baiken's theme, which might be, again, sort of her inner light. But either way, it doesn't have to be a Shakuhachi. If I haven't talked about that in my SNL, in my original part talking about this, the Shakuhachi is the thing to demonstrate is a very powerful instrument because it has both the sides of yin and yang. One played both matter and spirit in a way because of its sort of polarities that it plays with. It's hard to explain. I don't fully get it itself, and I also don't know if I hear the Satsuma Biwa, but these also that might be a more electronic version of it. But still, outside that, whatever's hearing, you have that sounding voice, oh, and the woo. These two, the single sound, just listen to that single sound, and you'll be purified. You'll be connected to nature. You'll be one with nature when you listen, when you just allow the sounds of the world and everything to bless you, to purify your spirit. We talked about this in Okami, there are different things of impurities if you go against the laws of nature, kegare. It's another word obviously in Buddhism for it, but in Shinto it's kegare. You need to purify yourself of kegare, of pollution. This music is a way to do it, and to balance your chi, which is why the notion of the shakuhachi, because it has both the yin and yang poles. But it's just, now you hear the light, the dancing of that night, the power, the blessing to the gods is right here and right in front of you. And it's beautiful. Music, it's the beauty of nature. It's the beauty of life itself, because that's what it means to dance. And Anji, when he dances, is it's described as poetry in motion. He is, I don't know if it's really related, but the waka poets, people who make waka poetry, have to, in their bodies, be in a right posture. So when you listen to music, or when you perform music like in no theater, or you write poetry, your body and your mind are together. So it's both a unity, and the unity between his whole body and the rest of the world, everyone dancing, everyone partying, because it's time for unity. And unity between him and Baiken. And Asuka. You hear that the music adds the traditional Japanese instrumentation. I feel like it might be a biwa, but I looked up, but or it might be a koto. I think it might be a koto, which is sort of like a guzhong or gukon. But either it's a thing that's sort of like you string it with strings, a string instrument, but it is definitely a string instrument, but I don't know exactly which one it is. But either way, now he's bringing Baiken back in the sort of the more traditional person, even though Anji's obviously a traditional Kagura Mai dancer. The tradition's back in, and they're together and they're dancing. Now the promise I made, I promised you that you are going to eventually change your ways, and you are going to stop this stupid revenge quest against Asuka. So the music in my head never stops in my head. This notion, again, the music is the notion of nature. You listen on that sound, and it resonates spiritually throughout you. It's powerful. Now a single footstep carries two hearts. Like obviously this is saying that yes, Anji's footsteps carries both him and Baiken. I think people get that, but it's because he can sort of understand through music, have this where otherness there's a sort of, it's hard to explain, but there's Tetsuro Watsuji talks about how when people are together, two bodies are together. It's not only that the flesh is it is a flesh connection, but it's more deeply even though it's a bodily connection, it's a connection that negates the two bodies, but it is of the body. It's hard to explain, but fundamentally, to become one, that through the music, it allows just other people to come together in such a primal way, such a beautiful way that's sort of like different parts of a whole coming together. The single footstep carries two hearts. One has the two heads. His one footstep. With one footstep, I fight for you. But I'm still chasing one, so yet he's still. But either way, that's the third. Honestly, it's either it carries two hearts, and he's for. But he's chasing the real heart that's Baiken, or it's the third heart and it's Asuka. Okay, it's Asuka. No, I'm not making it for that the third heart. This is the third heart and it's Asuka, but maybe. The other side of the unreachable goal, that's opening up the cave. That's opening up because sort of getting to Baiken was like getting her out of a cave. That's what it's like. There was no actual, from my note, there's no actual night where Anji and I partied at a night of music. This is all metaphorical, and it's a beautiful metaphor. Okay. But he's saying, blessing us, he's going very, but he's now more confident in his, like, even though he's repeating again, he's being more confident in how he's talking. He's being more confident in his speech. So, I feel like I do intend eventually to talk about how Ki, in general, but but also how Ki fits into the notion of information, the information world that the backyard is, where everyone gets their powers from. Because I feel like I'm trying to I've been pushing this a little bit to be an Anji video essay, but I think there is more that should probably be left for something else. But thank you all. This was a great time. I feel very proud of the research I did for this video. There's a lot more I could talk about and a lot more I want to talk about, but I don't need to bore you for too much, and a lot of it's not actually related to the lyrics of the song. So I just pushed a little bit by talking about Waka. But either way, it's been Daly's Philosophy of Video Game Philosophy. Hopefully I will get this out before I talk about Symphony. I think I should I'll get it out before Symphony. So because of that, Symphony's next. Symphony will be next, and that will be fun. I hope there's alchemy in it. I hope there's a lot of alchemy references in it. But from what I've heard, I haven't heard it, but it's a bop, and I've gotten a lot more respect for this song. Like, I didn't know what it was really about. I just thought it was about the notion of the trickster. But there's a lot more to the song. So, peace!